Well, we're all set and ready to go. We're starting this evening with how strategic questioning keeps students focused. This is can be some of the things that I'm going to share with you tonight around this topic. Some might say, no, Ms. Gibson, that's not necessarily going to work that way. But what I say to you as I share with you around how questioning can help with your classroom management is try it and prove me wrong. So most classroom management issues, they don't begin with misbehavior. I'm going to say that they begin with confusion, disengagement, or uncertainty about expectations. See, when students don't know what is being asked or what they might be asked in general, behavior fills the gaps. So I want to take a moment to just kind of do a reflection. I want you to think about the last time your class became restless and what questions had just been asked. Who was expected to answer? Recently, I had a conversation with a teacher who just has been feeling completely defeated. She'd say things to me like, they just won't listen. I tried everything. And when I walked into the room, it looked calm enough at first glance. Students were seated, materials were out, but within about 2 minutes, the side conversation started. One student was sharpening a pencil for the third time. Another had their head down. And then I began to watch more closely and intently. The teacher asked a question. It was a good question, but she answered it herself almost immediately. She asked another one, same thing. And students then learned quickly that they don't have to actually think. They just needed to wait. About 10 minutes later, the behaviors she mentioned, they started to show up. Not because the students were always defiant, but because they were disengaged. We paused the lesson and we made one small shift. She asked a single clear question, not one that they'd answer quickly, but one that made them ponder. Then she told them that she'd give them time to think, and she waited. I know. Sometimes it feels very uncomfortable to wait. But those 3 seconds can feel like you're standing in front of feel like forever when you're standing in front of a class. But that day, I saw something change. Students looked up, hands under their chin, the room quieter and not louder. I'm not going to say that the behavior didn't disappear instantly, but the tone shifted. And students realized their thinking really mattered. And when thinking is required, behavior often regulates itself. That bit of advice clicked for her. And as I hope tonight, as we talk through classroom management, it'll click for you. Classroom management was not failing her. Her questions was working against her. We're going to unpack a few of the ideas that I think will help you to make your question be intentional so that management becomes proactive instead of reactive. And most of the time, the fix is smaller than we really think it is. Now, classroom management is only about correcting behavior. It's really about structuring your thinking. And we're going, as I said before, we're going to talk through several of those pieces, but let me get us over to our next one so that I can make sure that I could talk all night to you about certain things because it's the heart of things that my company is able to do. But I want to also make sure that I stick to what I want to make sure that I give over to you tonight. And these are the 4 points that we're going to talk about. Asking great questions as a management tool. Some common questioning pitfalls, which I'm getting ready to lead us right into, and asking 3 questioning moves that I think will really help. And it would be remiss of me not to talk to you about how the exams and even walkthroughs can help with alignment with this. So asking great questions as a management tool, well, questioning sets cognitive demand. Cognitive demand drives engagement, and engagement reduces off-task behavior. When questioning is predictable, clear, and inclusive, students stay mentally present. When questioning may be vague, optional, or even unseen, that's when you see the disengagement and management issues begin to rise. Now, notice I didn't say management issues would be completely gone with the correct questions. I've worked many years in urban settings with some great questions, and still things arise. What I'm saying to you tonight is let's avoid some of the common pitfalls that kind of lead us off to that. And let's make sure that we're not only correcting these behaviors, but we're actually structuring their thinking. So some of those common pitfalls that I want to make sure that we like really highlight, because it was within the first story that I talked to you about, the wait time. Wait time really does matter. The way you call on your volunteers or seek answers, very important. Asking multiple questions at once, it might set your entire group off. So that entails is talking about your pacing and then answering your own questions too quickly. And I'm even going to say, like I said before, it feels like forever when you're waiting. But whatever little thing that will help you, if it's tapping yourself, or if you got yourself a stress ball and you do so many before you ask the student that question, I think those are ways to help us. Because these moves that I mentioned and you see on your screen, they unintentionally signal that students' thinking is optional. And that's not really what we're all about. We want to make sure that the time that we spend with our students are effective, practical, engaging, rigorous, all of that. And the best ways is during our planning. Sometimes you can ask questions on the fly, but a lot of this has to do with you knowing and understanding your material and asking questions that are not surface level. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I discussed the fact that we have to make sure that we're pacing ourselves correctly. And I could the thought that I'm trying to remember, it kind of escaped me, and maybe it'll come back, and I'll be able to share with you that point in part. But I know that these 3 question moves that I'm going to share with you really give us the bang for our buck. And the very first one, very important on your exams, multiple Texas exams talk about this. And it's just a great best practice. And that is using wait time as a regulation tool. Wait time is not just silence, it's a thinking space. So you want to provide this great question. You want to pause intentionally for 3 to 5 seconds and then just scan the room. With the right questions, you're going to almost see their wheels and their heads turning. See, students learn that thinking is expected when you use this. Some of the behaviors that I talk about quite a bit when I'm helping in classrooms are blurting will decrease. Some of the anxiety that comes up will decrease. And what we really want is for compliance to increase. Some ways that I would say it is, I'm going to give you time to think because I expect everyone to be ready. Then that's when I'm going to roll into another pointer regarding staying ready, keeping them on their toes. I walked into one of the teachers' classroom actually today, I talked about this wait time, that her students were not working as hard as she was. What do I mean by that? Well, all students should be expected to be called on. Yes, I know we have the ones that their hands are up really quick, shoots up. They're ready to answer your question, and they're probably going to answer it correctly. But I start to say, use cold calls. You know, introduce it with warmth and clarity. If you've got some random selections so that you know who you've called on for the day. Some other activities like popsicle sticks with their names on it in a cup so that you know that everybody knows that they're going to be called on. Then you have the think, pair, share. When the think, pair, share is done, randomly select students to share. Whiteboards or written responses before you get allowed to give any oral answers. These are all ways to help to impact the management as well. See, students will remain on task because participation is not optional. Attention will improve. And then the conversations, these side conversations that sometimes we have to deal with, they'll decrease. And it's not going to go away because you complete these strategies once. But consistency is the key. In many of my programs, consistency is something I harp on quite a bit. Because time after time of repetitively doing something toward the positiveness of whatever your lesson might be or whatever you're trying to build in your classroom will definitely help. And then the third strategy or the third move for questioning, I'm going to say, is aligning your questions and your directions. Questions should reinforce expectations, not compete with them. Sometimes I'll hear, does everyone understand? While that's an okay question, I'm going to say to you, try, what is the first step you are about to complete? Then that way, you know the ambiguousness of that question goes away. See, clear questions, they reduce confusion. And confusion often looks like defiance or distraction. But what really matters most here is that not adding more strategies. It's tightening the ones that we already use. And this one is a time-tested and proven strategy. As I kind of wrap up these 3 questioning moves that I'm talking to you about, I really feel like wait time communicates that thinking is expected. Universal accountability communicates that everyone belongs in the learning. There's no one going to be left out. Aligned questions communicate clarity and the purpose. Together, these moves create structures students can trust. And when students know that they will be asked to think, given time to think about it, and supported with clear questions, behavior is going to be more regulated without constant correction. And if you're feeling like you're constantly redirecting, correcting, I want you really to take note, as I said earlier, about what questions did you ask? Were your directions clear? And did you provide them with enough time to think things through? If it was a great question. As you move forward, choosing one question more to strengthen the first question. See, these small instructional shifts often create the biggest behavioral impact. That's how questioning stops being just an instructional habit and starts to become a classroom management anchor. And as I promised before, I have to connect these topics to what you're seeking to do with completing your exam. And I also put in a walkthrough alignment because these are things that your administrator may point out to you and you need clarity for. Two of those questions that I'm going to really focus and hopefully answer well tonight is, what is the connection between the exam and this questioning strategy? Walkthroughs and the questioning strategy. And why is it important? I think that if you have to make this exam connection, it's because questions move from a teaching preference to a professional expectation. On certification exams, effective classroom management is rarely assessed through consequences or rules or reward systems alone. Instead, in your question stems, one clear choice should come rising to the top, because it's going to evaluate through instructional decisions that will prevent misbehavior before it starts. See, earlier I talked about being proactive versus reactive, and questioning is one of those decisions. When you see exam scenarios describing off-task behavior, low engagement, or inconsistent participation, the best answer is often an instructional adjustment, not a disciplinary response. How really does it show up? What kinds of language will they use on the test? Things like the teacher notices several students are disengaged, or only a few students consistently participate. Maybe even students appear confused after directions are given. In each of those situations, the exam writers are testing whether you understand that clear, intentional questioning increases cognitive engagement. And as I said before, cognitive engagement reduces off-task behavior. And proactive instruction is more effective than reactive management. And when I look through those answer choices, I'm going to see some things that kind of jump off the page, hopefully. Like allowing adequate wait time before calling on a student. Using strategies that hold the students accountable for their thinking. Even asking questions that clarify expectations and task steps. And then one of the ones I know that I see quite a bit, monitoring understanding through purposeful questioning. If an answer choice focuses only on redirecting behavior after it occurs, it's usually a weaker response. All right, Miss Gibson, I get you. But how does that have anything to do with walkthroughs? Well, during classroom walkthroughs, administrative teams are rarely listening for how many questions you ask. They are observing what your questions do to the room. And here's how the evidence can be seen. Students know they may be called on at any time, so they don't opt out. They're laser focused and paying attention. Wait time is intentional and visible. The questions are aligned to the learning objective. That is one of the number one things that I can tell right off whether or not the person has put quality time into the types of questions that they choose. And then I'll say students' response guide the next instructional move. These strong questions communicate high expectation for thinking, clear instructional structure, and then a calm and practical learning environment. When questioning is effective, classrooms feel orderly without being so rigid. So I wasn't a rigid instructor, and I'm not going to even kind of talk about the difference between all of that. But I knew how to engage a classroom instead of just students being compliant. And as you continue to perfect your craft, you'll develop that skill as well. So effective questionings in regards to the exam and effective ways in which ways in which you can highlight or see when admins are coming into your classroom through a walkthrough. All of these are definitely pieces that allow us to help our students know what to expect when we're asking the right. So what do you ask? When you ask it, and who do you expect to answer them? Again, I don't know. I guess my expression tonight is just that questioning is really has to be intentional. Your management, your classroom management is closely related to it. Is it all in all? No. But I will say the questioning, the clear directives, all of those explicitly affect how your classroom is going to be run. So in your exams and your walkthrough, strong management is often demonstrated through instructional decisions. Again, not discipline systems alone. I'm not against discipline systems because you need them. You need orderly procedures and things of that nature. But when you are focusing on the content and you are making certain that you are putting the learning in your students' hands in the form of best practices like questioning strategies, your classroom environment is going to improve. And I believe that this is one of those key factors that will help us as educators to continue to help our students, first of all, know what our high expectations are and ways in which to help them to get to their next level. I'm always looking to make sure that students grow at least a year under my care. And these are strategies and things that we're implementing through our channel and our station to help you, to help them also make those type of gains. I hope that the information that I shared with you tonight was useful because again, we come with practical tips, things that you can use tomorrow or even today if you were still at work. You'd like to learn more about us, you can always visit us at ttinnovate.com. And we are on all of the social media platforms that you see below. I want to thank the subscribers that have been adding themselves daily. It is my heart's desire to continue to be an effective piece of information, of application to this teaching profession that I so love. I know many of those that I'm servicing are alternative certification candidates that did not go through the same route that I did in regards to gaining the understanding of pedagogy. You have the love of being in that classroom. You have the grit to be able to go over the information. And you have the capability of giving the right tools to do well in your classroom. And that's what we're here for. Again, as I always start out all of the conversations that I have with you all, it is that we are effective in empowering educators through empathy, strategy, and practical tools. Well, everyone, I hope that tonight's live stream met your needs, and I'll see you again real soon. Good night.